Hi, we continue the section, the 5A and 5B, and we discuss how to use the BA2 plus to calculate the internal rate of return and the net present value. So remember that the net present value is defined by just the present value of all cash flow. AT is cash inflow and the LT is the cash outflow. A stands for the asset and L stands for liability. And the V is equal to 1/1 plus I. So basically NPV is a function of I. So if we want to calculate the internal rate of return, we have to solve the P of I is equal to 0. But this is in general a polynomial of I, the high degree polynomial of I. So we cannot solve it analytically. So we have to use the BA2 plus. Yeah, so here is then an example. So we think about this cash flow. So example, so we have the $100 at time 0. So this may be cash inflow, okay, or yeah, cash inflow, and cash outflow is the $60 at time 1, and there's $50 at time 2, and $20 at time 3. So what is the internal rate of return? So when the net present value is equal to 0. So it's a fair product. It's always good to guess what's the answer. So we have $100 cash inflow here, and cash outflow is 60 plus 50 plus 20. So that means 130 in total, and it's over 3 years. So the 100 becomes 130 over 3 years, maybe on average, maybe 1 year or maybe 2 years. So maybe suppose we have the 2 years on average, we think about it, then $100 becomes 130. So that means probably the annual rate of return is maybe the 15%. So that is the one good guess. So always the guessing the answer that clarifies what you are doing. Okay, so how to calculate this? So mathematically speaking, if we think about the present value, thinking present value, 100 should be equal to the 60 times the V plus 50 times V square plus 20 times the V cube. And if we consider the V is equal to 1/1 plus I, this is the 3-degree polynomial of I. So no analytical solutions. Maybe mathematically speaking, we can solve the quadratic equation, but that is too complicated. So maybe the linear or quadratic equation can be solved, but the cubic equation cannot be solved analytically easily. So we have to rely on the calculator. So how to do this? So we can use the cash flow function. So at first we have to clear the memory. So in BA2 plus, so at first we put the cash flow button. So cash flow is the second row and the second column. So just the second one from the left and the second one from the top, CF. And we want to clear the memory. So the second, then clear work. Clear work is the bottom key, the most left key at bottom. So these 3 keys, they clear the memory. Clear memory for cash flow function. Okay, then we input the numbers, so you can use it. So at first, we have the $100 cash flow at time 0. So if you clear the work, at first you see the cash flow at time 0. Okay, cash flow at time 0. Then time 0. So this is not all, but the cash flow at time 0. And we have to input the negative 100. Okay, so because the cash flow is above the line, so we have to put the negative sign for all the quantities above line and the positive sign for all quantities below this line. So the CF, the 0, so we have to put negative 100. So technically we have to put 100 first, then after the plus minus button. But just I said the negative 100. Then enter. So enter key is the top one, second one from the left. So 100 negative, then enter. Then go down. Then you will see the C01. So cash flow, the first cash flow. So first cash flow is positive 60. So we put 60, then enter. Then below, then we will see the F01. This is the frequency for the first cash flow. And we only have the $60 once, right? So we put the 1, but actually the default value is 1. So you don't really have to put anything. Then you have to go down again. Then the second cash flow is $50. So input 50, then enter, okay, enter, then go down. So this is arrow. So it's also in the top row, the second one from the right. And then also the $50 only once. So we just go down again. So if we have the $50 payments twice, maybe at time 2 and time 3, then we have to put F02 is equal to 2. But here that we don't have to enter that number, so just skip. Then the C03, and we input 20, then we enter again, and below, and again the frequency is 1, so we can skip. Then now that we entered everything, so the 60 enter below, and below, and the 50 enter down arrow, and the 20 enter down arrow. Then okay, so now maybe you can see the C04, but we have already entered all necessary cash flow. So we want to calculate the internal rate of return. And this is a little tricky, but we put IRR button. So this is actually the second row, the second one from the right. Then we type compute. Then we get the answer in percentage. So you will get the 17.21. So that means the 17.21%. So you can see the 100, basically, roughly speaking, 100 becomes 130 in 2 years. So interest rate is about 15%, but actually the 17.21%. It's understandable that this is larger than 15% because the most cash flow are at earlier years. You can receive the $60 at time 1. So actually the more amount is at time 1 and less amount is at time 3. So that means the annual effective interest is higher. So 17.21, it sounds the very reasonable answer.